I am going to kick us off. I'm afraid you've got quite a lot of talking from me at the very start of the day, but I'm very much doing a kind of short, brief summary bit before I hand it over to Pamela Cox, who's going to do a far more interesting take on impact. I suspect that I'm going to manage through my slides, but we'll start it off. So you're at your really earliest stage of your PhD, and I imagine some of you have heard the term impact within your institutions, but you might not have actually really had time to explore what that means and how it relates to your piece of the research that you're going to start undertaking. And what we're hoping you to really get from today is an understanding of impact, why it matters, why we think it's important that you start thinking about it now rather than towards the end of your PhD. I'm going to start by just talking about what impact means for ESRC and why we think it's important. And then Pamela Cox is going to take over from the University of Essex, and she's going to talk about her experience of bringing social science to life and working with TV, most recently with the BBC. So mine's very much setting up, and then hopefully I'll pass over. So why are we talking about impact? Firstly, I've got to say it's not new. I think there's a tendency to think that this is something that's just come up, and it's been in the last 5 years that we've really started talking about impact. But it was there in our ESRC charter, and as I said, we've been here for a long time. We spend £213 million a year of the taxpayers' money. Collectively, the research councils, over the last spending review period, which is 5 years, it's nearly £3 billion worth of public money. We need to be able to demonstrate the value of that. And we mustn't forget that man there, because we are publicly funded. It's going to be a really tight spending review. We need to be able to show him the value of putting significant money into social science research, and that means about the benefits for society and the economy as a whole. It doesn't mean that we don't recognise that there is importance and value in academic impact, but in terms of us getting the best for social science, we really need to be able to demonstrate that we have this wider impact. We did a fairly good job last time. Compared to other public sector bodies, we had a flat cash settlement, which means that we kind of, I mean, it's still a little bit of a cut in terms of cost of living and everything's going up, but we held our own compared to a number of other government departments who had far more significant cuts. So what do we mean by impact? This is the collective research council position. So I should say ESRC is one of 7 research councils. We obviously work with you independently, but there are a number of areas where we come together, where we have a real common interest. Some of that is in areas of interdisciplinary research, but it's also in areas like this where we want to speak with one voice. And we're saying it's a demonstrable contribution that excellent research makes to society and the economy. And that our definition, though, embraces quite a wide range and diverse way of having impacts. So obviously at the top of George Osborne's list is global economic performance, but we really do think, you know, the effectiveness of public services, policy, the way a range of practitioners work in society, broadly enhancing quality of life, so it's broad. One thing I should probably talk about, and it's worth, I think, starting at an early stage thinking about, is there is a difference between outputs and impact. So outputs are important. They're the articles, reports, the seminars, the conferences that you take part in. But for it to be taken up, that's when it becomes an impact. So if it's then used to make changes, to inform policy, if you can really demonstrate that it's involved individuals. I should say, so that makes it important when we're thinking about publications and conferences to start really capturing. So how many times has it been cited? Where has it been published? Who's looking at it? How many web hits are you having? And it's really the importance of knowledge exchange. It's really difficult, impossible to have impact without knowledge exchange. But one I want to put is a kind of realistic angle to this. We're sitting here and we're saying it's important, and we're going to talk about its importance throughout the day. But we recognise you're doing a PhD, it's very early days. What we want you to do is to start developing that perspective and the skills. We don't expect that every single one of you is going to have perfect impact stories from your PhD. That would be wildly unrealistic of us. But what we do, I mean, there might be, and there will be examples where you have, but it's hard work, and it's going to be hard work, but if you start doing now, it might pay off. And what we find is where we have really good impact studies, impact case studies, it's actually not often based on one individual piece of work. It's a culmination of work and evidence, and actually sometimes it's that reputation, the knowledge that you've gained, which then gives you access to policymakers so that they can draw on that. So, don't take away from this that we're expecting you all to be changing policy with your PhD, but we do want you to start thinking about it now. And I think a really good starting point is, what is excellent knowledge exchange? Start thinking about, build your awareness of policy and practice context. Think about who your potential research users are. Really participate in networks. Go and speak to people. Talk to a range of people. Be really engaged with people from the very outset. And think about making your findings as accessible as possible. And accessible might mean different things for different audiences. At ESRC, we've developed an impact toolkit, which is available on our website. It's been informed by, we evaluate a lot of the research that we fund, and what we've done is use that to create guidance for all our investments, not just postgraduate students, on how to develop their impact strategies and how to also evaluate the impact that they're having. So go and have a look at that. But it's not the only resource you've got. You're part of a DTC. It's something they're thinking of. Your institution is definitely thinking about it. You have media relations support. You have your careers service. You have your supervisors who also have networks and contacts. Just really start at this early stage thinking about all the different sources of support and advice that you can tap into. And what I've really quickly tried to do is just pull out some of the key things that from our toolkit that are kind of relevant to this stage, which is, it's about relationships. Think who might be interested in your research. Really think, what could be your hook be? What's unique about your research? What's your unique contribution? Be really interested in others. So it's not a one-way street. Go out there, talk to people. Think about the different ways to engage them. We've got social media now. There's real opportunities there. You have to have short, snappy messages. It's not for a long piece, but think about the different mechanisms that you have. Think about the training that your DTCs have on offer and really take advantage of it. And remember, not everybody will be interested. Sometimes you'll be met with a bit of a blank wall, but don't be discouraged. Carry on. You will hopefully have some successes which will keep you motivated, but don't be too disappointed when you don't get there sometimes. And finally, it seems a long way off, but thinking really early on about how you might capture some of your impacts, because sometimes they happen a long way ahead, sometimes they happen slightly left field, and if you just start thinking about how you might capture them when you're developing your approach to impact, think if you were having to say, even at the end of your 5 years on from your PhD, what's been the impact? Think about the types of things that might help you tell that story, because it might be one of the things that you might need to do for your career, be it an academic appointment or actually careers outside. Okay, so that's where I'm handing over. Thank you for listening to me so patiently, and I'll hand over to